Now, as you mentioned, Riou has a very, very different lineup than what we've seen today. We have the Rise, we have the Valash, we have the Anahar, we got a Tuvine. That's 4. Half the team is something we haven't seen today.
And no Barnshi. And
no Barnshi.
Like, we've seen a lot of Barnshis being picked up. Riou doesn't have one.
No Zinnereth at all on either. No, wait, Zinnereth just got banned on Kovanel. Yep. So yep. So no Zinnereth will be played this game, or at least this round. And we see that Valash got the ban from Kovanel. So might see an Anahar, might see a Raiken. Probably going to see a Tuvine pick as well out of Riou. Riou. I can't imagine that not coming. So we're definitely going to see some new Tems on the field this time. That makes me really happy. Saipat, the first pick for Kovanel.
Saipat's a smart first pick. That's able to counter out a lot that Riou has to offer. Volarend is the only Tem on his team that can really tank up a Saipat. So knowing that, he opts for a Volarend and Pig Epic lead here. That Saipat's going to be a big threat throughout this match for Riou, so he needs to find a way to take care of that effectively.
So Volarend, Pig Epic, picked right away. Obviously afraid that it would be banned. Honestly, I don't think Kovanel would have made a Pig Epic ban.
I think it was mainly just to support this lead of Volarend here.
Perhaps, but with the second round of picks, we are left with an Anahar and a Rise for any type of fire ability. So no matter what, he's going to have one of those two to pick from before the end of the pick ban session here. So at this point, who would you ban?
That's a very good question.
Goes for the Kinu.
Yeah, banning out the Kinu. I personally would have banned out the Ana here, just because with Mix, if I'm wanting to run Mix on my team, I don't want a Meteor Swarm to be a threat. And Ana here, having access to that Meteor Swarm, being able to hit Mix even if it has Puppet Master activated, is going to be very hard to deal with, but it's possible that Kovanel's plan here is to just not run the Mix. Although bringing in the Pigapek and Barnshi, I kind of doubt that he's going to throw Kinu on this too, as he would be overloaded with support Tems, which would make it very hard to deal any actual damage to Riou.
So probably that final pick going to be the Mix. But here we go. Tuvine makes it on there. Now Anna here. Will we see some Meteor Swarm? Or will we see the Saipat?
Saipat's appealing, but I'm not sure if that's what he wants to be running here. Of course, he doesn't want to put too much weaknesses to Saipat on his team, because if he picks Ana here right now, then he has to get rid of that Saipat ASAP.
Oh, of course. Has the availability to do it. A couple strong sweepers here who are not weak to the Saipat. And it looks like he is erring towards that Ana here pick.
Actually, picks the Saipat.
He picks the Saipat instead at the very end. So there you go. He thought about it, though. And, of course, we have the Mix or the Kinu here for Kovanel. I tend to agree with you here. Mix would be a better choice here. He has a bit. He already has two very strong supports. Mix can kind of go either way with the trap and the exhaustion that particular Tim can bring to the table. But that's more of a debuffer than anything.
Yeah, and he actually opts to go with Mix here. With that triple support
that was a Kino.
Yeah, he went with the Kinu, and he's really just thinking, you know what? My Saipat is what I need to win here. Let me just all in on this Saipat and give my Saipat all the support he needs to be able to take out the opposing Tem. Putting all your eggs in one basket is a little bit of a risky move, but that may just be what he needs to do to win this.
All right. Here we are. Semi-final round. Kovanel versus Riou.
The Gallus lead here was smart, as with Pigapik and Volarend, neither of them have very strong turn ones to apply aggression to Gallus, so Gyalis has a very safe turn here to utilize Heat Up.
And
The one thing that it has to be a little bit wary of is he does have the Rise in the back, and if Gyalis loses some of its speed, with Gyalis' high base speed being one of its main strengths, is going to be very crippled by that Rise.
Saipat will be switched out. Kovanel bringing out Kinu instead. That will put the Protector bonus there on Gyalis. Not a bad opening move.
Especially because it means they'll be able to eat up a Hyperkinetic Strike much easier.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Kovanel's Gyalis had a coat in the previous match up. Did we see a gear change?
Not quite sure. I did see something pop up. I think he still has the coat, but I wasn't paying as much attention.
Yeah, that was very, very little damage there, of course, you know, obviously with the protection from the Kinu. And perhaps a coat, I didn't think I saw that. So I did want to mention that little bit of damage there against Gyalis, just a teeny tiny chip. We're going to have to see more, of course, but very low damaging round there. For Riou, who didn't do any switching whatsoever, maybe a touch disappointed by the lack of performance there. Now, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is just the learner in me saying this, but if I'm not going to make any changes or an opening swap, I'm looking to do as much damage as possible. And we just definitely didn't get any value out of that turn for them, for Riou, as some changes are made. But we do see Rise come out with that Demoralize, which puts the speed down on Gyalis. Big Epic now on the field.
Yeah, just due to the speed tie.
Wow,
arrow,
and turbo choreography to even offset that Demoralize even more. Now, the Pig Epic was not touched by that Demoralize. And there's another turbo choreography there.
And with the synergy, that's +2, so this is a very fast Pig here.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to note that the turn order there was really important with who got swapped out when. Gyalis, if it was swapped out before Rise came in, would have been able to safely avoid the Demoralize, but I think just due to how speed tie arrows work, I think it was the Rise that was able to go out first and get the Demoralize off before the Gyalis could get out. These things are very hard for players to keep track of right now, but as players continue to improve their skill, they're going to be able to recognize these things a bit easier.
All right, Saipat switched in. A lot of build-up, turbo choreography there to speed up. Bamboozle on the Saipat for Riou. A lot of people wondering, hey, what does this gear do? What does that gear do? We just saw the sweatband on Riou's Pig Epic just come out, and basically what that does is reduce the amount of stamina used for a move.
Not quite reduce the stamina of the move. We have to be specific with this, where it recovers additional stamina at the end of the turn.
That is true.
It's a very small difference, but it
actually really does make a difference, though, because if you think about it, if you reduce the amount of stamina used, and that properly keeps you from overexerting, but instead you're using the full amount and recovering more thereafter. So if it doesn't reduce or diminish your chances of actually overexerting your Tems.
Correct. Now, one thing that with these two Tems is that having both Barnshee and Piggypeck out on the field means that they can get a lot of speed up with turbo choreography. And if this Barnshee or Pig Epic have Relax on their team, they can really shut down the opposing team, since they have a lot of slow Tems with Rise and Ana here, as those Tems will be put to sleep quite frequently with a Relax.
We haven't actually seen Relax used so far this tournament, at least from what we've been able to spectate.
That is correct. Now we're going to see turbo choreography come out, increasing Pig Epic's speed even more, and Tubine's speed going up in the process. Bamboozle coming out onto Kino is going to be protected from a Crystal Plume Gatling, but Tuvine still would be able to hit Barnshee quite hard with one.
Very little aggression. Everybody's doing build-ups. There's a lot of respect between these two players. You kind of wonder if Riou knows that Kovanel is a very, very tough competitor. Do we know if these two have ever battled before?
I'm not sure. I don't know the history of in-depth of, yes, this player has fought this in the past, as I don't have information for everybody they fought in the Swiss round. It's possible that these two people have gone up against each other in the Swiss rounds before, and just not now. Crystal Plume Gatling coming out.
There we go.
Barnshee very low health, and we do see the Relax come out.
There we go. So for the first time today, and look at that, the Relax. So that Barnshee is running neutrality, so of course it was going to get touched by the sleep. And look at this, Kovanel gets a free turn, and this is why Kovanel is right now considered one of the best in Temtem Esports. To consistently get to semifinals or better and two big back-to-back tournaments, and then showing this kind of big brain plays where you're able to put to sleep the other half of the field while yours remain unaffected, basically getting a free turn here.
Yeah, and he can use this turn to bamboozle and heal, so this Barnshee is looking like it's in a much better spot here.
Yeah.
He needed another turbo choreography to be able to outspeed Tuvine again, but with that bamboozle, he can just press another Relax here and start building up his team back.
So we're going to see a switch more than likely as we wait for this turn to begin. Right now, very different style of play than what we've seen all day. And you can kind of see why some of these rounds take a lot longer than what we've been able to spectate. I mean, we've seen some very hyper-aggressive play coming out of Tup Pup and, of course, out of Kovanel in previous rounds, and therefore creating a really, really, really accelerated game. But this time around, we haven't seen any KOs yet. We've seen very, very lengthy build-up rounds, a lot of chip damage, not a lot of 2x damage, 2x effectiveness, 4x effectiveness plays here. It's just been very slow. And this could be the reason why these players get as far as they do, is because they take the time to really pick their matchups, switch appropriately, go through build-up rounds, and put themselves in positions where they are most effective.
Riou's looking pretty good right now, as if Kovanel wants to do a Relax stall comp, he's going to have the issue of Rise with his Demoralize coming out, constantly going to be able to lower the speed, and he needs a lot of speed in order to get some of the Relaxes off.
I really think it's important to mention there that Bamboozle prevented 2 attacks there from the Saipat and the Pick Epic. For those at home wondering, gee, why did nothing happen? Both turns of Kovanel's Tem were negated by Bamboozle.
And Tuvine did run out of stamina and overexert there. So if he wants to bring in a Tem to try to help deal with Tuvine, that's an option. But right now, I think the biggest threat on Riou's team right now is the Pig Epic. We saw it had Sweatband, so it's able to keep using Bamboozle. And with the speed boost it got, no Tem on Kovanel's team will be able to outspeed a Bamboozle, so he can always protect his team.
Another turbo choreography. Polar very quick now.
And the Pig Epic did not overexert using that turbo choreography, instead being left with 0 stamina. So it has the ability to use Bamboozle again if it wants here. Protect the Volderend, who now has +2 speed.
Yep.
And since Volderend has
strikes are coming.
Speed, yep, Hyperkinetic Strike, which does damage based on your speed, is now going to be dealing a lot of damage, especially to a Tem like Saipat.
At this point, we are going to see some aggression. Kovanel being very smart defensively. Haven't seen a lot of damage come out from that side of the field yet, though. Riou Both playing in a very reserved capacity as well. For those who haven't been, we're 10 turns into this one, guys. 10 turns into any other the other rounds we've seen would have been half the field gone already. But we're barely just getting started here as we are breaking into the semifinals. A very different level of play being demonstrated at the tail end of our tournament here.
I can tell that the chat's getting really antsy for something to start happening.
They're
With these
getting
kind of
antsy, and they're 5 minutes in the past, my friend.
Oh, I know. Due to the 5-minute delay here. This kind of match is one where players are just going to continue to build up, because the moment that they lose a bit of momentum, then they'll just fall behind and the game's already over. So it's going to be a lot of build up into a very explosive finish.
Like, honestly, the last thing you want to do is lose this game in a tie and let the speed tie mechanic determine the winner. So, and we've seen this before here, guys. And our players, they learn the rules and they understand how the winner is decided in a tie event. And so it's one of those things where, speed is becoming even more critically important. Now, can you please explain to me what a freeze effect does as we see the freeze go out on Valorant? That is a status effect I rarely see.
So
in
what
competitive
happens
Temtem
here is, unlike in other similar games, cold only freezes the opponent if you apply it twice. So the first Ice Shuriken came out, and that means that
oh, wow, and the Hyperkinetic Strike will take out Valorant. Thank you for trying to answer my question, but Hyperkinetic Strike will take out Psypad, excuse me. And very first big move made of this round. But yes, continue about freeze.
If he was able to land another Ice Shuriken, that would freeze Valorant, preventing him from attacking that turn. But Valorant was already faster. It was going to move first. It hit the side pad extremely hard. It wouldn't have been able to really freeze, and that Ice Shuriken was just to get a little bit of chip damage in the end.
Gialis now on the field. Valorant, I don't remember if the Valorant overexerted on that previous round.
If I recall, it had just enough stamina to attack again. Either way, I don't think this Valorant is going to be sacrificing itself to try to deal any damage, especially since Hyperkinetic's already gone. So we do see the swap out here into Rise. Very good counter to the Gallus, as that Demoralize is going to lower its speed once again. This is a -2 speed Gallus. And
that's happened
any
twice
attack
to
coming
Gallus.
in. Right, any
what
attack
a
coming
great
in.
counterplay against Gallus, might I add. And this is why I'm so surprised we don't see more Rise out there. And I'm glad you took the time to explain the difference between a Rise and a Riken, because that Rise, even though not fully evolved, and yeah, technically less base stats than its Riken counterpart, does have that Demoralize, which completely shuts down Gallus and makes it vulnerable.
Yeah, and with Gallus being slower, if Rise decides to throw an Ember out onto Gallus, Ember... Actually, excuse me, it has resistance, so it won't be affected by Ember, but if it was any other temp besides Gallus, Rise could hit the opponent with a move called Ember, which would apply 1 turn of burn, which means any attack that the Tem would do that turn would have its damage reduced by 30%, which makes Rise really tanky in comparison, even though its evolution has higher base stats.
Dipping into reserve time even more now for those folks at home. Once that reserve time is gone, it is gone. So Kovanel's going to have to make a decision very soon. This is a very, very strange predicament. And we've been talking about the meta break build. We've been talking about it. I mentioned I wanted Riken, but let me tell you, after the speed control and watching at how Rise has been used to control Gallus and keep it slow, not once, but now twice, it put Kovanel in a very, very bad place. Gallus is very, very threatened right now, but at the same time, if you switch it out, who do you switch it out with? And are we going to have to rely on a speed contest with Bamboozle, which does manage to get off, so that might help. But it's still putting Kovanel in a very, very dangerous place. And sure enough, we see effects failing due to Bamboozle, and we're off to the next turn. So both Bamboozles counter-affecting what would have been very strong attacks between these two Tim. Now, another thing to bear in mind that Bamboozle does not keep them from using the ability. They both still burn staminas for the move that would have been used.
And Kovanel's Pig Epic actually overexerting to get a Bamboozle onto the Gallus means it won't be able to do that same trade off this turn, and Rise and his Pig Epic will be able to be protected from any attack that Gallus decides to throw out this turn. Kovanel seems to be trying to play Riou at his own game with all of these speed boosts trying to come out, just not being able to break through.
The problem is you can't win that game. You can't win that game with Demoralize. You can't do that. With Demoralize out there, you're always going to have that to worry about, and that Gialis has been hit with it twice. And sure enough, there we go. Embers out there and being used. Not as much damage as I thought it would happen. And then, of course, Pig Epic gets knocked out. An overexertion there. Gialis hurts itself. And now
it's not overexertion. That was the Fainted Curse that
Pig
Epic
Fainted Curse, of course. Which is one of the big reasons people do not like to take out Pig Epics so soon.
Gallus, it does have some good defense boosts right now, but it's really, really low. And no matter how high your defense is, having 300% defenses when you have 1 health, you're still going to die.
I have to be honest, when watching a lot of Kovanel, I have never seen Kovanel feel so slow since the matchup against Dirk, and we've seen it quite a few times now. I only remember Kovanel taking this long against Karth. Wow, Pig Epic will survive with a rock shield helping out there, but the Embers from Rise will take both of them out, unfortunately. That Fainted Curse playing to both players' advantage 2 turns in a row.
Yeah, being able to take out that Rise means that this Gallus is a lot safer, but due to how much it's had its speed reduce, it's going to have a very hard time actually surviving an attack from the opponent. Barnshee still having that +2 speed means that Relax is a threat, and without that Rise, there's no way to slow down the opponent, especially with Pig Epic, the fastest Tem on his team, now gone.
I have a feeling here that Riou forgot about Fainted Curse with that Embers hit, because that Rise was too valuable to sack there.
I think he was just expecting the Crystal Plume to go down first, or maybe getting the Embers off and having the damage from Burn be the thing that knock out Pig Epic, not expecting the actual Embers attack itself to kill.
Either way, pretty sure Riou wasn't counting on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a tough loss. The Rise there was so important to Riou's success thus far, and to see it go down, I'm thinking Kovanel's feeling like he just got a stroke of luck here. But remember, everybody at home, this is best of 3, so these players are feeling each other out here. They're seeing the strengths and their weaknesses. I would not be surprised to see a ban on the Rise in the next round, because that Demoralize was well, demoralizing.
That's a very good way to say it. Now, of course, we may not see it based on how Kovanel reacts to this. Maybe he has a strategy to go against it. He has different ways that he can be playing as well. Kovanel still has a chance of winning this depending on how things go, and if he wins this, he may not feel the need to ban. If you remember the bans that he banned out before, there were a lot of high threat targets to this Barnshee, and he got rid of a lot of those high threatening targets for Barnshee, so Barnshee was able to be very effective this match.
Absolutely. Barnshee got a lot of play last week. Was actually probably banned more times in one round than it probably had been banned throughout the rest of our tournament history at Temtem Arena. It was insane. But we do get to see Barnshee up here with very similar support utilization happening as we wait for Riou to lock in their final moves. Here we go. Barnshee with the Bamboozle. A Beta Burst against Saipat. And that will finish off Saipat.
That was a big Beta Burst.
It was.
And Tuvine overexerting, trying to get rid of the Barnshee, but unable to due to the bamboozle that it had. Volarend coming out. Volarend is very, very fast and might be able to knock out this Barnshee before it can bamboozle itself.
Definitely see that Kovanel took notes from the Dirt game. And that's the thing, is that Riou, once again, not counting on that counterplay with Fainted Curse the first time. Now, of course, it's the bamboozle on the Barnshee, and ended up damaging his own Tuvine, which is costly. And Toxic Plume getting some good damage.
Yeah, it's going to lower the Gallus' attack, but that's not going to be enough to really protect itself here. We're going to see.
I don't know. That Gallus has had its speed reduced so many times. And Volarend, if I'm not mistaken, has had several stages of speed buff as well.
Yeah.
So at this point, Volarend's actually looking pretty good, in my opinion.
For sure.
In this matchup.
I think it was very smart for him not to use Hyperkinetic Strike
there it goes.
last turn, just because he didn't know what would be coming in. And he's able to get rid of Gallus, so all that's left is a Barnshee and Kinu to deal with this Volarend here.
But take a look at this. That Rise is still providing value to Riou's team, as Kinu is now knocked out by Tuvine. A little bit of overexertion, but that's okay. Riou looking firmly in the driver's seat, as Barnshee, the only remaining Tim on Kovanel's team, is out.
Actually, this is a little bit scary. Barnshee is faster than Tuvine, and if Volarend can't knock out the Barnshee here, they'll be able to knock out Volarend.
And what is that?
Oh, that's going to be enough after the poison, but this seems to be a neutrality, so it's not getting the poison.
And Volarend will go down here.
Oh, this is actually huge, because all he has to do now, since the Tuvine overexerted last turn, is to bamboozle himself, and he's going to be able to outpace this Tuvine.
Bamboozle? Peck? Oh no, and you're going to bamboozle for the rest of that. You are nasty, Kovanel. But this is why Kovanel gets to the end repeatedly. And at this point, Tuvine, what are you going to do? Peck until you overexert?
Pretty much. That's all he can do.
This is a stamina race, isn't it? So you
rest.
This is a
stamina race. And Barnshee has the sweatband, so things are looking to be in Barnshee's favor.
No, Hypoxia.
Odd decision here.
Very odd, because now Barnshee is gone. Wow.
I guess he just thought
had a window that he could have won. Gets banned on Riou's side. That's a surprise to me.
We saw how effective that Pig Epic was last match, being one of the most difficult things to get rid of, and when he finally did get rid of it, that's when he started to get a little bit of momentum. But Walrus, I'm going to need you to take over here for just a moment. I need a minute to take care of something.
No problem at all. Remember, everybody, Voxel here is at home and volunteering. So if there's something that needs doing, there is something that needs doing, and I will do my best to provide all the entertaining commentary you need. But right now, for our first pick with Riou, we're going to see a Valesh hit the deck, and I'm so excited because usually that gets banned immediately, and this time Kovanel, I think, a misstep, banning that Pig Epic, the Valesh with Scavenger, gets to hit the deck. We're going to see some Valesh play, and now we might see Tuvine as well. Two Tems we hardly ever see in any competition. This is going to be great. This is going to be sort of an exotic start to this semifinal round. Now, with Riou already having won a round, this is a best of three. Can afford to take a little bit of risk here and maybe try to exercise some new strategy here against Kovanel, who is rocking a fairly meta build. Kovanel now gets to make the second choice, probably realizing, oh no, I have a Valesh to deal with. In all honesty, that was pretty tough, banning the Pig Epic before the Valesh. And then the next ban round, you have the Rise that caused so many problems of Demoralize. Honestly, I do not see the Pig Epic ban as a positive choice, even from my limited knowledge. I definitely do not see Pig Epic being the right ban to open with. And this reserve time, we're cutting into it. I think, is evidence that Kovanel realized that mistakes were indeed made. We now get the next round of bans coming up. And once again, an agonizing decision here. Kovanel only with 15 seconds of reserve time for the remainder of the picks. Will have to make a decision here very quickly. And will ban the Rise. All right. Kovanel's Pig Epic has been banned as well. And now decisions will be made. Valorant next up. I wonder if we get to see an Ana here. I really hope we do.
Alright, I am back, and wow, a Sypat in mixed lead. I am loving this so far.
Not only that, but we have Valash and Tuvine.
The Valash and Tuvine will be able to apply some pressure to Mix, but neither of them, depending on how this Mix is built, being able to one-shot Mix means that they are going to have a hard time getting 2 attacks on without having its Puppet Master proc. And with Sypat having access to Nicho Sai, the second turn is going to be able to hit one of these 2 Tems very effectively.
One last pick between Gialis and Barnshi. I think a lot of people would just immediately pick Gialis. Barnshi has been very useful. There's the Gialis pick. Here we go. Round 2 of the semifinals. Riou against Kovanel. Riou in the lead currently of the best of 3 with 1 round completed and 1. Kovanel's going to need to win this round to stay alive in this tournament.
I really just think what could have happened last match if he decided to prolong that out and go with the Bamboozle Peck trades. If he would be in this situation where he is right now, where he has to win this match.
I'm amused looking at the chat as they have just discovered what had happened in that previous round.
Yeah.
Crystal Spikes there on Valash, not getting below half health, and yet another Crystal Spikes this time against the Kinu, also not getting below 50%.
Crystal Plume, not enough to knock out Mix here, as the Puppet Master does proc. Yeah, I used Mix so much that I knew that it wasn't going to get one shot from a Crystal Plume gathering if he built it right. And now, with that Puppet Master in place, things are going to be a lot more difficult for Riou to deal with.
Chat disappointed they didn't get to see the war of attrition in that previous round. Sorry, chat. One thing to watch out here is should Valash survive the next round and any of the other Tim get knocked out, the Valash will actually heal with the Scavenger perk, but instead it will retreat. Sypat will come out next. Crystal Spikes against the Sypat. Over 50% damage dealt there. Kinu with Beta Burst. Oh no, and that aggression might just cost Riou.
Yeah,
that Sypat and just it's really hard. That last round went so slow that you would imagine it'd be a lot of buildup. That's what I would have anticipated. And wow, that amount of hyper aggression. We're 3 turns deep, and already we're near KO on Mix. Kino gone. Meanwhile, Sypat on Riou's team gone. No freaking punches are being held back here. Ladies and gentlemen, they're going for it.
Yeah, that Mixed Puppet Master having so much value here. I love Mix so much.
And honestly, at this point, we are looking at two fairly evenly matched teams at the point. I do think Riou has a bit of a leg up here, but with Kovanel, you can never be too sure. You can never be too confident against Kovanel.
Toxic Ink.
That will do damage. That'll be and with that that poison there on the after of this round and the next, Kinu will be left fairly weak. But Saipat in a similar situation, under 50% health.
Saipat being slightly faster will be able to take care of Kinu if Kinu does decide to beta burst again, but I'm almost expecting a swap out at this point. Putting Saipat at half health is value on its own, as you're able to deal with Saipat without having to burn something like a hyperkinetic strike from Volarent.
Contemplation and coffee. But this is not morning. Once again, Voxel doesn't get the reference. That was Stranger Things, actually. That was mornings are for coffee and contemplation.
I only watched the first season of that, and I didn't really enjoy it.
That was a season 1 reference!
I just said, and I didn't really enjoy it, so...
Oh, man. Well, that's fine. I'm sure someone in our audience will appreciate.
You gotta understand, I don't watch movies. I don't watch television. I don't get movie and television references unless they're extremely popular.
I see. So Stranger Things not popular enough for you?
Nope.
Forgive our banter chat. Toxic Pommel. Bringing those attack scores down. Meanwhile, Crystal Spike against Volarent. Woo. Not as much damage as I thought would go out.
Haito Uchi coming out. That's going to
wow,
knock out Valash.
And the energy drink will keep Valash awake. But he already moved this turn anyway, so it really wouldn't have mattered. Holding on with just a little bit of life left in him.
Yikes.
But yeah, that Giala's moving too slow for the Haito Uchi to even really be effective in terms of denying Valash a turn. Valash very fast right now. Can get a heal with a knockout on any of these Tems.
So he really just wants to deal with that Valash as soon as possible. Maybe a Crystal Spike.
The Valash is too fast.
I mean, a a Sharp Stabs from Gallus has high priority and would be able to outspeed.
Perhaps. Do we see that, though? Volarent with the hyperkinetic strike. Not enough to take out the other Volarent. Damage itself an overexertion. A tornado.
Not going to do anything to Tuvine. That was a good swap out.
Yeah. And that'll be the end of Rio's Volarent there.
And Gallus, being left with one Stamina, has the ability to use Sharp Stabs and take out Valash here. So that would just leave the remaining Tems, or hell, if he wants to, Volarent can throw a Hyperkinetic Strike onto Valash, just getting Valash out of the picture right now, and then he has Saipat and Nyx he can utilize to deal with Tuvine.
Even now in the chat, they are still debating how that could have unfolded at the end of the previous round.
Yeah, I'm giving them some pointers. Like, it would have gone to Riou even if they went into a stall of bamboozles, as eventually it would have gone to Riou due to Tuvine having larger HP and the round 30 limits, making it so that way it will go to the player with the highest HP total.
But
do
you
see
figure you could have done a bamboozle, waited for the 2-vine rest, and then take the opportunity to use some type of attack to lower
that would have
HP.
worked. All he had to do is just spam the. I mean, first I just want to point out
I'm a dreamer.
Boulder
okay?
End used Hyperkinetic Strike just like I suspected, knocked out the Valash, and now it's Gallus and the rest of his Tem here to deal with 2-vine. Boulder End has access to Toxic Plume and can reduce 2-vine's attack, making it even more difficult for this 2-vine to come back.
And now Gialis goes down, Valoran taking a rest. Out of just a handful of Tem, and all of them are weak. And this is where you kind of wish you're... Wait. Yeah, we're just down to 2-vine on that side, and that's pretty rough. But, you know, you kind of wish you had your Valash here, because imagine how much scavenger health you'd be getting here.
Oh yeah, for sure. But we see Crystal Spikes and Toxic Plume coming out, getting those nice synergies, lowering the opponent's attack, and
There we go.
2-vine not having the highest special defense is going to take a lot from that. He knocks out Boulder End, but now all that's going to happen is Psypack comes in, and they finish off 2-vine for the end of the game.
Yep, absolutely. And this is Kovanel coming back. We'll send us into a third round of this best of 3.
I have to ask you, how do you think Tukma fried 2-vine would taste?
Kind of crunchy, unless it's like Pop Rocks.
I'm a Mix fanboy, so I just want to see Mix in every final. I'm sorry.
I'll be honest with you, Kovanel getting this far again, lost in the last semifinals. This needs to be a winner for Kovanel. Kovanel has gone this far, has come so close to greatness. And knowing that Karth and Dirk are not here, that Snitch is not here, if this is not the tournament that Kovanel takes, with this wide open a road, will Kovanel ever get this close to greatness ever again?
I mean, if he keeps participating in our Temtem Arena tournaments, he will quite likely have a chance of getting back in this greatness.
And how would Kovanel register for our Temtem tournaments in the future?
By signing up on our Discord. Not only do we have tournaments that are happening weekly on our Discord, but we also have a ranked queue ladder that you can queue yourself up for and get constant practice to get ready for these tournaments.
Unbelievable. Poor Vox, right now you're getting called out as uncultured swine for being anti-meta.
What? Excuse me? Anti-meta?
Anti-meta. You uncultured swine!
Alright.
Hey, look, I'm anti-meta too, and here's the reason why. I'll just explain it really quick. I like seeing new ideas surface that defeats the old meta, that makes things a bit flashier, more exciting. There's a lot of counterplay opportunity and Temtem, even now, with about a quarter of the competitive game that we know we're going to get by the time this game fully launches next year. So it's really exciting to see as the meta grows. And I'm anti-meta as well, because quite frankly, I see a lot of choices and decisions being made that I know are safe, but I really just want to see those gutsy plays. And speaking of gutsy plays, we have an Anna here finally being played. Look at this Rise Anna here opener for Riou.
2 fires into 2 crystals. This is
wow.
A little bit of a rough lead for Kovanel, as he's going to have to worry about this Gallus and Zenareth both losing that important speed that they have at the beginning of this match. Also, when they were saying I was anti-meta, they were talking about me not knowing movie references.
Oh.
Basically, that was their way of saying I'm a hipster or something. I don't know.
You are a hipster for not having seen or really care much about Stranger Things. I will say that.
But we see these teams coming together now. That double fire type is going to make things difficult for Zenareth and Gallus, and Boulder End is going to probably end up becoming the main attacker here, as he has very little ways, or a Psypat, as he has very little ways of dealing with these Crystal Tems.
Well, here we go into the third round of the semifinals. Kovanel against Riou.
This is looking like a really strong start for Riou. Both of these Tems having their speed reduced. Not only is that important, as they will not be able to attack first, but they'll be able to get off Embers on Rise, reducing their damage by 30% even more. You see the Zenareth swap out, not wanting to take any fire attacks coming in here, and Gallus taking this opportunity to
Even
set
that
up his
Gallus
attack.
staying there is really gutsy. I wonder if they're going to trade attacks onto both positions here or focus on one. And instead, nope, it was they're going to use the heat up on Anna here.
Well, neither of those Tems have very strong turn 1 attacks, and he figured since my Gallus has resistance, it won't be taking damage from burn if he does decide to Ember me, so he's likely going to be throwing it into the Zenareth spot, and that's exactly what happens. This Pig Epic, being fairly fast, is actually going to be able to protect itself from a incoming fire attack.
Bamboozle on the Gallus, no surprise there.
Haito Uchi coming out on Ana here, doing
Ooh.
massive damage, but Ana
Energy
here,
drink.
yeah, the energy drink keeping itself awake means that this Meteor Swarm is going to come out, deal a lot of damage to Gallus.
Wow, and it does work. Bamboozle will not stop that attack from landing. Because it's classed as an area attack,
the Bamboozle
correct?
was procced by Ryze's Ember earlier.
Oh.
So now this Gallus is extremely low, but this is looking nice as Ana here, which was a big threat to the Zenareth earlier, is now extremely low HP. And all it takes is for Pig Epic to use a high priority move like Tornado to finish off Ana here. And that's going to leave Zenareth, now originally having 2 counters out on the field, a lot more viable to threaten Riou.
I see a vote out there for an Osera sharply raised eyebrow.
I saw that
emote.
too. I found that to be interesting.
I kind of want that as well. We're going to need a few of those as time goes on. Either when I say something silly or when the players do something silly. Usually it's me saying something silly that raises a few eyebrows around here. Let's be real. Valorant coming out next. Ana here, coming out of battle, like you said. A question for me. What is my favorite Tem? Skunch. I love Skunch. He's a musical artist, very talented. Ember's on Valorant. And this time around, we don't see Riou taking advantage of the switch in Ryze for Demoralize. And that's one of the things you have to kind of wonder about when you open with Ryze, but I really feel like that was done just purely to make sure that Ryze didn't get a ban.
Excuse me, I'm sneezing off the mic here. But
Just
yeah,
sneeze into it. Just sneeze into it. Welcome everybody to your world. That's how you do it.
Oh no, I don't.
And then they go, "Oh my goodness, Vox is so sick. I can't believe he's shoutcasting. What a great hero! I'm going to subscribe because Vox is a hero." And that's what happens. You know, it's like you just.
I mean, they could follow me on my personal Twitch channel if they wanted to support me, but I would rather you guys support Temtem Arena here, giving us a follow, subscription, any donations you want to do to help support this platform. I'm a believer in this platform, and I want you guys to help push this platform as well. The Ryze, I think, is actually not a bad lead. It is a very strong swap in, but that lead just, you can effectively shut out opponents' leads, and if you do something like swap in from Ryze into a Kinu, then you're getting double swap out value and really pressuring the opponent's lead, as having reduced speed can be game changing in this kind of game.
Again, is the reason why I'm surprised Ryze stayed in for as long as he did. I was mentioning the Demoralized switch in. And we're going to see Valish come in here now in place of the Ryze. That makes a lot more sense to me. And hopefully Discord will smooth out these frames here for us so we can continue to enjoy this matchup. There we go. Big Epic surviving, but that poison will knock it out.
And the poison knocking it out means that you don't have to worry about the fainted curse coming out and taking 40% of either of these Tems' health.
Yeah, remember that fainted curse took out Ryze, which in my opinion seems to be the cornerstone of Riou's composition here. Hopefully we'll start seeing more Ryze. I do like to see Fire Tem on the board. I've been missing it. It gives value for Water Tem, and it will really open up the meta quite a bit as we see some more of these fire counters. So, you know, seeing Ryze get taken up by that fainted curse earlier, very good play this time with the side pat. To do just enough damage and let the poison finish off the Pig Epic. Very safe play, very smart move. You know, sometimes you gotta like be crossing your fingers on those, you know.
Yeah, I think having the Zenith out right now is very nice, as Volaren does have the move Toxic Plume, which, when synergized with a Crystal Tem, lowers both opponents' attack by one stage, which means that this Saipat is going to have a harder time dealing with Zenith. And Zenith has the ability to potentially get a lot of value out here. Instead, he swaps out the Volaren for Kinu, opting to boost up his the Zenith's defenses instead of lowering the opponent's attack. Saipat getting retreated here, out for Rise, lowering the speed and being another. Yep.
That's that switching I keep talking about, and we saw how effective it was in round 1. And Crystal Spikes coming out immediately against Kinu. Not quite 50% HP done there, so Kinu's still somewhat positive out of that. Meanwhile,
Valash also going below half health.
No, Kinu did not go below. But
you're right. Valash getting below half health now means that Zenith can pressure Valash with another Crystal Spikes, and Kinu, if it wants to stay in here, it can just say, you know what? I mean, that Crystal Spikes wasn't bad. I don't mind living with 1 health here.
Waiting now for Riou. Make a decision. Only 6 turns into this, and it feels like we've seen 12 or 20 turns from the previous rounds. This has been some very fast rounds. Here we go. Crystal Spikes from Valash on his Zenith.
Not much damage at all, really.
About a quarter health there. Kinu using Sacrifice, so that's going to raise some defenses there for the Zenith. And that's a tanky boy right now. Wow. And, you know, that seemed like a pretty early sacrifice, honestly. If Kinu was sitting above 50% HP, so I was surprised to see that. And does that count as a KO for Valash's Scavenger? I didn't quite look for that. It did, okay. So Valash actually got a heal there. So I'm a little curious about the decision to sacrifice when he did, especially with Zenith going into an overexertion there and taking more damage.
He was expecting the Valash to use another Crystal Spikes onto Kinu, which would leave it at 4 health, which then Sacrifice would have made a lot of sense, as since it was dropped in speed because of Rise, it wouldn't have been able to get Sacrifice off the following turn, and it really wanted to make sure that it got that +2 defense, +2 special defense off on his Zenith, allowed him to survive the Fire Tornado from Rise.
So what you're saying is Riou over here with the big brain plays, knowing that Kinu was going to be sacrificed anyways, put more damage down on Zenith.
Yep, exactly that.
Well, there you go. Sometimes it's just what you got to do. As the player I'm playing against smart enough to know the sacrifice here or what. And that's probably what ended up happening. Meanwhile, Anna here, back out onto the field. And as you mentioned here in the chat, big difference between Volcrane and an Anna here is that the Volcrane will resist fire, where Anna here does not. So Anna here just takes normal damage from fire, correct?
Right. It does resist with the fire, but it has the crystal typing, which is normally weak to fire as well. So that's one reason that Volcrane is used so much in competitive, just because it also counters out the other fire types that people might want to bring in to counter out Crystal, having access to the Earth typing and resisting the fire attacks 4 times. But right now, this match is looking like it's going in Riou's favor, as it was able to deal a lot of damage to the Gyalis and Zenith here, and Volaren, being the only healthy attacker it has left, is going to be struggling to be alone after the Zenith and Gyalis get knocked out.
So, any bets on when? I don't know. It's been 9 tournaments so far, and everybody's still debating whether or not it's Pig Epic. It's Pig Epic, by the way, guys. Just a heads up on that one. But how many more tournaments do you think it'll be before they decide to go with Pig Epic?
It's going to happen until someone else starts mixing up another Tem's name, and we all start talking about that name and how everyone's pronouncing that wrong instead.
Yeah. Or that where everybody quits watching because they're tired of hearing the correct pronunciation to pick Epic.
Instead, we just make a Piggy Peck emote, and they all spam Piggy Peck every time that a Pig Epic comes out on play until everyone thinks that it's Piggy Peck instead, and that just becomes the official pronunciation. Oh, you know what it'll be?
Chat,
It'll be
we
when they
love
come
you.
out with a Temtem anime that has pronunciations. Balish getting knocked out by the Hyperkinetic Strike is not going to have any benefit from Scavenger now, and that's a nice play here as Boulderend gets knocked out by the Hyperkinetic Strike as well. I told you that the Boulderend was
Somebody
going to be scary.
call up Tuck McFried Volleren there. I'm pretty sure Kovanel's Volleren is done. Wow. Meanwhile, Gialis coming out next for Kovanel's team.
It's a slowed down Zenith and Gialis versus a Boulderend and Rise. Look at that. That's the third speed drop that they've gotten. These guys can't move. They're slugs.
No, and look at that Rise. I mean, it gets valued just for showing up. Wow! A concession that early. Kovanel